CN Inside the Studio is proudly sponsored by F&M Bank.
Hello and welcome back to CN Inside the Studio. My name is Sarah Kittle and I'm here with Sam Poules, who is the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Detroit's DEA division.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for coming. It's a pretty big job that you have. Can you tell us how you got into that?
Yeah, so I grew up in Detroit. I was actually born in Iraq and came to the United States when I was about 7, 8 years old. We lived in Chicago initially and then moved to Detroit. Pretty much raised here in Detroit. I think maybe that had something to do with wanting to be in law enforcement, right? And I always kid around. I always say I'm inherently nosy, so I think it's like a perfect job for me. I've always enjoyed law enforcement. It was something that I always wanted to do. After high school, I went to Wayne State University. I got my degrees in criminal justice. I had the opportunity to join the Michigan Police Corps. I was selected for that. Went to the police academy. I started in local law enforcement here in Michigan. I worked for the Plymouth Police Department for 4 years. After Plymouth, I had a sort of a great opportunity where I was able to join DEA and sort of jump ship to the federal service. And I was fortunate enough to get selected. I went to Quantico, Virginia there for the training, for the initial training. And then I was assigned from Detroit initially to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And that's where I started my federal career, was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
So how did you get to Detroit?
So how do I get back to Detroit? Yeah. So I had after being in Philadelphia for 6 years, I was, of course, family's very important in our culture, as you know. I had 2 little boys at the time. My wife was ready to move back, and so we made the decision to move back to Detroit. And ready, honestly, I was probably ready to move back. I got the opportunity. There was a vacancy announcement here in Detroit to be the polygraph examiner, and so I did our polygraph exams for our Detroit division office for about 5 years, and that was a great opportunity. It exposed me to all different types of investigations. Our application process, right? Got to see a little bit different side of DEA worldwide. I got to travel all over the world. I've done polygraphs exams from Afghanistan to Nigeria to all of South and Central America. So yeah, DEA has been really good to me.
So can you tell when people are lying?
I always get that question. Yeah, I mean,
You pick something up, right?
Yeah, I can pick something else. Yeah, that's fair.
That's funny. We were talking about Chaldean representation. How important is that, do you feel, to the community?
Well, I think it's very important, right? I think anytime someone knows your culture, understands you, the language, right, immediately that barrier comes down, right? Hence, I think why the opportunity that I'm here, that I'm able, you give me the platform, right? It's the fact that, hey, he's Chaldean, he works for the DEA, let's invite him, right? I think there's a lot of advantages to that. Now, that being said, representation isn't necessarily everything, right? We still are professionals. We still have a commitment and a mission to do our job. But yeah, absolutely. It doesn't hurt.
You said you have 2 boys?
I've got 2 boys and a girl.
Okay. Are any of them interested in going into law enforcement?
I think secretly, maybe they are. I think I know they think that this job is cool. Of course, they only see the cool side of the things that I do or have done, and they see the travel and the opportunities I've had. Yeah, it would be okay. I would support it if that's truly what they want to do, but I want them to do what they want to do, not necessarily, what they think I want them to do. If that.
And did you get support and encouragement from your family?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, it was a little bit of a different discussion when I had to move from Detroit to Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a funeral. But yeah, absolutely. My parents have always supported me. I mean, I think they're very proud, and I hope they are.
Do you see your role as a bridge between law enforcement and immigrant communities? I mean, not just the Chaldean community, but other immigrant communities as well?
Yeah, I believe so, especially in this role more so than in previous roles, right? On the operational side, honestly, we're very limited in how much engagement you can do. But in this role, absolutely, I see that. Hence why I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you here. What, so you've had a wide ranging career. You talked about local policing to federal leadership. How have those experiences prepared you for your current role?
Yes, I think the exposure to all different, I'd say the DEA worlds, right, really helps you to become a better leader, right? Um, the exposure to staying local, you know, investigations, starting out really, really small to now working higher level complex cases that allow you to travel overseas, right? From cyber investigations to dark web investigations. I always surrounded myself with really, really smart people, right? Um, and I like to learn. That's huge for me. I think you have to sort of be vulnerable, right, as well, and put yourself in a situation. My boss always says, get uncomfortable in comfortable places, right, or uncomfortable, right? However that saying is, I'm trying to remember.
Be comfortable in uncomfortable places.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
comfortable in uncomfortable places, right? And truthfully, that's what it's about, right? Even taking the leap of faith to moving, leaving Michigan, right? I was comfortable. I was home. I was married. We had a child on the way. So that's a big, you know, that's a big jump, right? But it's worked out. I rely heavily on our faith just because of our community. My dad always says, if you got God with you, you're good.
Yeah. It's true. And you need them in your
That's right.
job, right?
That's right.
What's the most exciting case you've ever worked on?
Oh, wow. Um,
I know I'm throwing you for a loop there.
yeah, I mean, there's some cases that are ongoing that are really, really exciting that I would love to
That
kind
you
of
can't
discuss that I
say.
can't really discuss. In Philadelphia, I started out working a really small investigation that we were able to develop into something really, really large. We did a wiretap investigation with the FBI for over 9 months. We were able to indict, I remember if it was like 12 to 15 defendants, right? There was something about that investigation that till this day sort of was like a good foundation because it exposed me to so many different things. We had Mexico involved, we had Philadelphia involved, we had investigators come from New York and Texas. We were doing undercover money pickups. This individuals were linked to high level cartel members. They were using basically their like chicken farm to yeah uh, to put buckets of money and drugs and meth into in their backyards, like in chicken coops. It was just unbelievable, and it was just a great case. But it was also very, very rewarding at the end, right? When you could see something from a very small sort of investigation to, and again, my wife, all these kids around, she's like, anytime anybody asks you about work, you just keep talking. I think it's, people are excited. They think it's cool. So that's okay. Like, if
Sounds
there's
like a best-selling novel to
Yeah.
me. Actually, the investigation you just talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does the DEA work with local law enforcement and community leaders to address issues effectively?
Yes. So we have staying local agencies embedded within the DEA. In fact, one of the groups that I oversee is led by a Sterling Heights task force officer, group supervisor. And so we are embedded with the community just because of just the way we're structured as an agency, right? We call them task forces. We have Homeland Security task forces that are also aligned with federal, state, and local partners. So we're embedded. They are the ones that have sort of what I would say like the finger on the pulse, right? They know better what's going on in Sterling Heights and Troy, Detroit, Wayne County, right? And so we're embedded in that way. From the community standpoint, it's us sort of engaging with them. It's working with other programs that are already existing. For example, we've partnered up recently with Operation Engage, where we've partnered up with Detroit PAL, right? They have a youth program.
The Police Athletic League, right?
Correct. So they have, they've identified the kids. They have the transportation. They have the facilities. So we're able to bring our community, our resources, right? And it's not always just funding. Sometimes it's just manpower. Bring in some of the agents to be coaches, youth instructors, and it gets the kids off their phones, off the streets, but it also gives us the opportunity to engage with them to talk about drugs, drug awareness, prevention. So we do a lot of that. So we're excited about bringing Operation Engage here to Detroit. in partnering with Detroit Pell, whether it's a youth organization, an adult. We've done some community engagement with adult engagement to bring awareness to not only just youth, but to even employers, right, for the signs to look for on
Oh,
drug
yeah.
abuse. Yeah,
Yeah, because that's basically a big problem right
correct,
now. Yeah.
correct.
And once it is a problem, it's really hard to actually deal with once people kind
Very,
of, yeah.
very much so.
Um, are there trends within specific communities?
I wouldn't necessarily say trends, right? I don't think drugs per se have a specific zip code, right? A certain community culture.
Right.
I think in today's world, I think the phones, the social media has really changed what I would say drug trafficking, right? It used to be you had to drive to a certain place to go get your drugs. Well, nowadays you can get those things delivered, unfortunately, right? And so as these drug cartels, these drug organizations sort of adapt, so do we.
Yeah, you're playing catch up a lot, I imagine. Um, let's talk a little bit more about Operation Engage. Like, what is its mission? Is it just what it says, to engage with the community?
What it's not is DEA coming or the federal government coming and telling you how to engage your own community. You know your community better than we do, right? Our job is to identify what community could use the use. So we've identified certain zip codes within the Detroit community and partnering up with them. And again, it's whether we engage with their youth program, right, to bring some of our federal resources. We started a basketball program, a flag football program. In fact, we even have a fishing program in
Fishing.
yeah. And just recently, because of these partnerships and some of these meetings for Operation Engage, we've also been in, we got involved in the shoe drive that the Detroit Pal just had for all the youth. I don't know if you saw that on Click on Detroit. That was great. It gave us an opportunity to engage there. Um, People want to know that we're there to listen. We're doing a lot of different things. I think prevention is huge, and I think we do a great job in the enforcement side of things, but sometimes maybe the education and prevention, that's where we're trying to more focus on, right?
That makes sense. Um, I know that Metro Detroit has experienced a shift from heroin to fentanyl and other synthetic opioids. How has that changed the challenges that you guys face?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's a game changer. It's made it more complex, more urgent. Um, with heroin, that's a plant-based drug that takes time to
Grow.
to grow, right? There's a season for it. It's bulky. The movement of it takes a lot longer, right? These synthetics, unfortunately, you get the precursors from China. They're shipped from China to Mexico, clandestine labs, and those things are manufactured into everything. It started out with sort of the fake and counterfeit pills. Now we're seeing fentanyl being laced with all sorts of different drugs. And that's where it really is the game changer, right? And we're having people take what they think is, whether they're college students, young kids, teenagers, Xanax, Adderall, you know. And I always say, if you don't get it from a pharmacy and it doesn't have your name on it, do not take it.
Are there people who are taking what they think is a different drug and they're actually taking fentanyl?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's happening more than most maybe the general public is aware of, right? And that's why, hence, we don't really necessarily calling it overdose. We call it poisoning, right? Because overdose would be taking something that you're taking of and too much
Too
of,
much, right.
right? This is not it. What's happening is unfortunately, like you said, is they're taking what they think they are. It is, right? And they might even be thinking they're just taking cocaine, right? Or they're just doing straight heroin, and that unfortunately is laced with fentanyl because it comes down to greed. That's what it is, right? If I can provide you with a product that is going to cost me less to make, but you are happy as the consumer, whether or not you die or not, that's not their business, right? They're in the business of making money, you know. And so here's where we're at, and that's why when I say it's very complex, it's very urgent, and we are not going to police our way out of this. Like under our Fentanyl Free America campaign, obviously our goal as an agency, as a country, is to get rid of fentanyl, right? But we know that it's not just police that's going to be able to get us out of this, right? It's prevention, it's community support,
Education.
education. Correct.
What are the biggest obstacles that you face today in disrupting drug networks?
So I think drug trafficking historically has always been an evolving sort of, I think you said it's almost like a cat and mouse, maybe a chess game. And that's part of why I enjoy this job, right? And I think that's why a lot of people maybe even get in this position. But to answer your question, yeah, new technologies, right? New illicit substances. Every single day something is coming out. And that's not in a lot of different fields. They don't run into that same exact situation, right? And that's what we face with every day. And so our goal is always, like you talk about, prevention, awareness, making sure that if something is new out there, that we let people know what it is.
How young are these kids that are uh, actually getting their hands on these drugs?
We've gone in some, unfortunately, it's sad to say, but we've gone in some middle schools where we know that, they're already exposed to it, right? But the primary sort of right now, the numbers based on the last CDC numbers, I think 18 to 44 is the largest sort of age or the group that's really hitting the overdoses are hitting the largest. We haven't really narrowed down exactly why it's that of an large of an age gap.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah,
range.
yeah,
That's a couple of different generations. Too.
correct.
Yeah. Let's talk about community trust. Why is that especially important in your job?
It's everything in what we do. Uh, the public has to trust what we're doing, right? Trust is started by communication, right? It's by building a relationship. You know, if you don't have that trust, we don't have people reaching out to us. They don't trust in what we do, supporting our mission, right? I think it's really the sort of the cornerstone of everything that we do. We have a lot of autonomy in our job, right? There's a lot of trust put into us, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. And so it's key. If you don't trust me, you're not going to talk to me. If the community doesn't trust the police or the DEA or the federal government, they're not going to call you when they need you. They're not going to tell you that their neighbor is doing something that they're not, right? So it's huge. We need that.
That's why Operation Engage is so important.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's because we're embedding ourselves with communities, members, and organizations that are already trusted. They have a reputation. So it's just our way of helping. We just want to make it better, not necessarily take it over, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And then you engage with young children who then learn to trust you and hopefully grow up trusting in the organizations that will help them.
Absolutely. And not only that, maybe from a recruitment standpoint, maybe that one of those young men and young women, really like and respect what we do, and maybe it changes their perspective on really law enforcement, right? We're sort of a unique, I would say, organization, right? Unique in the sense from a career standpoint, right? What somebody does out in California affects every one of us here as a whole, as a law enforcement, right? And so I think that's why it's so important that we hold ourselves to the highest standard at all times.
If there's a teenager listening to this podcast who has an interest in law enforcement, specifically DEA, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say lean into your background, right? Like we're Chaldeans we're resilient, we're hard workers, right? We outwork anybody and everybody, if you really want to get into it, get an internship, stay on top of your schooling, stay on top of your fitness, stay out of trouble, obviously, get your education, whatever door opens up, sometimes you've got to jump on it. I didn't know where the city of Plymouth Police was, but I took it, it was a door. Sometimes God...
It's a good place.
Right? Sometimes God opens up certain doors for you, and you got to be willing to take it. Don't be afraid, right? It's a great job. It's a great position. It's very, very doable. It's not out of the reach. Nothing is impossible. If I can do it, anybody can do it, right?
You've traveled extensively, you said, with DEA. What's the most exotic place you've ever traveled to?
Unfortunately, we didn't really ever travel to an exotics place. So I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Lagos, Nigeria. I've been to Dushanbe. I've been to Istanbul. Um, yeah, exotic. Yeah, I don't know if I've, I would deem them as all, and we don't really go to like cool places, to
Right.
be honest with you.
Okay.
A lot of times it's very, we're in, we're out, we've got a job. Yeah.
Did you ever go to Iraq with the DEA or?
Yeah, so the closest I've been, I think, is Afghanistan. I never had the opportunity. I was pretty young in my career. A guy that I worked with did go to Iraq right around 2000, I think 2005 or so. So I had,
That time?
yeah, 2005, 2006. And so I never had the opportunity. I've traveled so much overseas, so sort of that bug of like working overseas, I feel like I itched that,
Yeah.
that
You're
bug.
done.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm kind of, in all honesty, as your kids get older, right, timing is a lot to do with it, right? As your kids get older, it's a little bit harder to move them as I've done in the past. I've moved, I think, 4 or 5 times. And so as their ages get a little bit older, it's a little bit harder to move your family, truthfully.
So, Sam, do you speak Suris?
Yeah, Meccan Sunnah, yeah.
Do your kids speak Suris?
Unfortunately, they don't, but like we were talking about
Oh.
before we came on, yeah, of course they,
They
I don't
know
know.
a few words.
They know a few words. They know a few words. Fair enough.
Select words. Do you have any interest in going back to Iraq and maybe taking the kids?
Their interest is always there, but the security is always there
and
as well.
you're hyper aware of that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So there's a lot of places that we can't go.
Uh-huh. What message would you like to share with young people, especially those in tight-knit communities like the Chaldean community, about the risks of drug use?
Yeah, so the one thing that I think is a Chaldean community in a lot of small tight-knit communities, there's always a stigma attached to it, right? Like we don't really want to talk about something that we don't want to admit we have a problem, right? And so I think that's where we need to break that. I think conversations need to start at a very early age. I think you have to be nosy as a parent. You got to go with your gut feeling, right? People always say, what should I look for? Well, you know your child, in all honesty, better than I do. If I can tell you something is off within several minutes, you should know that as well, right? So know who you hang out with. Know who your kids are hanging out with, right? Know who their parents are. What do they do for a living? I always say, if something doesn't feel right, you're probably more than likely correct. Don't wait till production is down, till they don't want to go to school, till their scores go down, their grades go down, till they start missing work, to ask those questions. Have those tough conversations. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the world we live in. Right?
Pay attention.
Correct.
Yeah. What steps can families take if they suspect that there's a drug problem?
Yeah, so we have a lot of resources just on our website with DEA.gov as it relates to just think twice, one pill can kill. And we talk about this one pill can kill because truly one pill can kill. But at the same time, so does one conversation, right? So does one voice. That can make a difference. And it doesn't always have to be a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, uncle. It could be a friend. It could be your colleague, right? It could be somebody at church, We all owe it to each other, And no one's susceptible from it. Like I mentioned before, there's no zip code that says this is, where all the drug dealers are, where all the users are. And we always say, if there's a user, there's probably a drug dealer in there too, right? Somehow someone is getting those drugs.
It's a human problem.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. What resources are available for people seeking help?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, our website has tons of resources. They're geared toward all sorts of different, I would say, not necessarily maybe demographics, right? Whether it's you're a parent, a grandparent, a educator, a teenager, someone in college, there's tons of resources there. There's tons of contexts where you can reach for. There's support peer groups there for someone who is dealing with maybe a loss of a family member to, because a lot of times we'll find that some people can find sort of a purpose when they lose a loved one, and then some people, unfortunately, just shun the entire world down. And we don't want that either, because that affects an entire family, entire generations and communities.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's a human problem.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything else that we should know? Or is there anything that you want Chaldean news readers to know?
Yeah, so the one thing that we just finished up our DEA take back. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Sarah. That is where we collect all the unused prescriptions, any medications, over the counter, anything that you know. I would say if you have any unused medication prescriptions, please bring those in. Every police department throughout our Metro Detroit area, has those take back boxes. We collect them. It's free. It's anonymous. That's one thing. Get those drugs out of your house. We don't want them to end up in our, water lines and supply lines, or God forbid, a young child or someone take them, or they're diverted for, other purposes. And the other thing is just have those conversations. I understand we're a great community. We're a community of faith. We're a well-knit community. We do a lot of things great, but maybe the one thing that we kind of lack on is maybe the communication part, right? And admitting when we do have a problem, right? My hope is that whoever's listening, reading this, seeing this, is that they reach out, they're comfortable enough, they're interested in the DEA. If it opens up another opportunities to engage the community, we're here, the DEA's here, the government's here. However, and whatever I can do to help and sort of bridge that gap that you talked about, I welcome that. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
Well, thank you very much for coming, Agent Poules. I'm just going to invite our viewers right now to like and share this video, and to let you know that we are listening.
Thank you.
CN Inside the Studio is proudly sponsored by F&M Bank.